recently discovered that reindeer are being given as prizes at a World Cup skiing event. For those wondering, yes, reindeer are real. They're not just mythical creatures that only exist within Christmas songs. Immediately when I found out they were being given out as prizes at this skiing event, something felt off to me, so I wanted to explore it and dive a little deeper to see if my intuition was correct. In this video, I'm going to share with you what I found, and we're going to discuss, is it ethical to give animals as tokens or prizes? Specifically within the context of the reindeer prize at the FIS skiing event. Before we do that, remember to give this video a thumbs up if you find it thought-provoking, subscribe for more of my videos, tap the bell so you don't miss an upload, and let's get into it. First, some context. A couple weeks ago, I was scrolling on my YouTube feed and I came across this community post from NBC Sports. Mikaela Shiffrin won the Levi World Cup slalom and her 7th reindeer as a prize. What should she name it? And there's an embedded tweet from her that says, I don't yet have a name for my reindeer, but I'm loving all the suggestions coming in. Feel free to leave some below as well, and stay tuned. Immediately, I was like, what is going on here? Full disclosure, I'm not a fan of skiing at all. I don't dislike it, I just don't follow it and don't know much about it. If we're talking figure skating, I've got you covered. I will fill you in on everything. That is my winter sport of choice. Skiing, not so much. I did a bit of a crash course on alpine skiing events to get some context for this video, but if I get anything wrong, I apologize. It is a bit of a confusing sport, at least to me. Also, for those who don't know, alpine skiing just means downhill skiing. Firstly, Mikaela Shiffrin is an American World Cup alpine skier who has the most World Cup wins of any alpine skier in history, men or women, and is considered one of the greatest alpine skiers of all time. She is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. I had heard of Mikaela Shiffrin before. She tends to be one of the poster children for the US Winter Olympic coverage. Then there is the Alpine Ski Federation, or FIS, and there is a World Cup Series every year, which from what I gathered is a series of about 43 events spread out over 22 locations starting in October and ending in March. One of the first stops on the circuit is in a town called Levi, which is technically a micro-city built around a ski resort in the Finnish Lapland. This is what Mikaela Shiffrin says about the city in a CNN interview.
Levi is Christmas, literally. That's just what there's Christmas trees everywhere, and there's little elves walking around, and you know, I mean.
The ski event there happened this year on November 11th and 12th. Mikaela Shiffrin won this event, which meant winning her 7th reindeer, as stated in the NBC Sports post. So I ended up finding out that the Levi ski event first started giving the reindeer prize in 2013. It's something that, from what I can tell, is only done at this particular event. We will talk about why I think they started doing it, but first, let's talk about the long history between Finnish people and reindeer. So yes, reindeer are real, and they are a species of deer that live in Arctic climates. Reindeer and people have a connection that is thousands of years old in what is today called Finland, first by hunting, then through domestication and herding. In this video, there will be lots of references to either reindeer herding or reindeer husbandry. For those who aren't familiar with the term husbandry, I wasn't super familiar with it. It basically means farming. There is a lot of documentation of the people of Finland, specifically the Sami people who were indigenous to the land, using reindeer for things like transportation, clothing, milk, and meat. There's so much history to the human relationship with reindeer, and even today there are very specific rules about who can own reindeer and how you can own reindeer. Knowledge about reindeer herding has been passed down from generation to generation, but things have changed as time has gone on. During the 1900s, reindeer herding became more extensive and meat production increasingly important. In the 1960s, reindeer herders began to introduce new technologies, the so-called snowmobile revolution, in their work with reindeer. Later, other mechanical aids such as ATVs and motorbikes came. Today, such tools are major features of modern reindeer herding in Finland. This has had a variety of impacts on reindeer herding, and as herders no longer ski or walk with reindeer, the relationship with their animals has changed considerably. Today's reindeer herding requires large areas, reindeer are often frightened and are forced to flee from natural pastures. So we know what husbandry means, but hearing all this talk about reindeer herding, I wondered what it actually meant. It's talked about as this sort of art form that's passed down among generations. It's also talked about as being an industry, meaning money is made off of it, and I wondered exactly how. I did have somewhat of an idea, but I wanted to confirm. In the Wikipedia page for reindeer herding, which goes into a ton of detail broken down by country, I found this information in the Finland section. The annual total revenue from reindeer husbandry in Finland is estimated to be 60 million euro, with the main product being meat. In 1999 to 2000, 93,000 reindeer were slaughtered, producing 2.1 million kilograms of meat. Obviously, that statistic is from a long time ago. I found something more recently that claims around 100,000 reindeer are slaughtered every year. In addition to meat production, reindeer are also an extremely valuable resource for both summer and winter tourism, as they are one of the main attractions for foreign tourists. Numbers from 1994 to 2000 show that 60 to 80% of reindeer herders' income is from meat. So this tells us people involved in reindeer herding are mainly making money from raising them or herding them for meat, and also from tourism. It seems like those are the two main ways in which to make money off of reindeer. It's very clear to me that the reindeer industry is a big part of the Finnish culture and history, and I'm really just scratching the surface in this video. As we proceed, I want to be respectful of this culture and history, while pointing out some areas where I see cognitive dissonance and things I find problematic, specifically relating to the gifting of reindeer as prizes. Someone on Twitter asked Mikaela, what do you actually do with these reindeer? Do you have them on a farm or something? Curious with where they go. Mikaela's response was, they all live at a reindeer farm in Levi, and she links to the website of a farm called Uneskivari. I also found this on the Team USA website. Fear not, animal lovers, the people of Finland recognize the importance of reindeer care. The prize is symbolic. Given that a professional skier's work schedule is loaded with training and travel, the reindeer stay in their home country and live at Uneskivari reindeer farm. While there, the reindeer are trained to live among humans and sustain a regular life. Some become sled pullers for tourists and locals alike. So let's talk about the farm where the reindeer live. This is the Uneskivari website. If you scroll down, they talk about what their farm is, a little about the history, and if you continue scrolling, you'll see excursions people can pay for when they visit, many of which include sleigh rides. In this 2016 CNN interview with Mikaela Shiffrin, the interviewer actually goes to visit the farm, and she actually remarks that the reindeer looks nervous.
He's quite nervous, isn't he?
The woman who works at the farm acknowledges this, saying,
The reindeers, they are basically half wild animals, so they are quite scared about the people.
I also found this video from 2013 of Mikaela winning her first reindeer, in which she jumps off the podium and scares the reindeer. There's also a picture of her with the reindeer she won this year, with his eyes bugging out, looking pretty scared. I'm not saying Mikaela did anything wrong. If she did scare the reindeer, I'm sure it was completely accidental and she felt bad about it. But this underscores my feeling that these wild animals don't really belong in these human-constructed, unnatural environments, like a skiing event. The woman at Uneskivari also says this,
Because they have their own characters and own personality, so some ones are easier to train than the others.
She also says that they mainly use the reindeer for transportation at their farm, but that reindeer are also used for meat and clothing. I have to say, the optics of this particular setup don't look great. This reindeer calf is tied to a post in the ground on a pretty short rope. He obviously seems scared and uncomfortable, but he can't really get away because he's on this really short rope. While I can't definitively say this means that they don't treat their reindeer ethically, I think we can safely say that their primary focus is to make money from this operation, and therefore from the reindeer, primarily through tourism. To quote what I read earlier from Wikipedia, reindeer are also an extremely valuable resource for both summer and winter tourism. Extremely valuable resource is the phrase that stands out to me, rather than individuals or sentient creatures that deserve comfort and care and safety. I think they are more often seen as extremely valuable resources. As for reindeer pulling sleighs, obviously they have to be trained to do that. I have no idea what that training process looks like. I think the only people who know for sure are the people who work there, but obviously they have to be trained. They're not gonna just be like, well, if they feel like pulling the sleigh, they'll pull it, and if they don't, they don't. Like, they have to be trained to do this like clockwork, because there is a tourist season. People are paying money to have these experiences on demand. From what I've seen with other animals pulling humans industries, it oftentimes is not very pretty. From what the woman at Uneskivari said, most of the reindeer that live on this farm are used for sleigh rides. But I'm aware that people also do eat reindeer. In fact, there were a few comments on the NBC Sports post suggesting various meat-adjacent names like steak emoji, chicken wing, and pork chop. There's even one comment saying that Mikaela should legit eat that reindeer. Since consuming reindeer meat is somewhat common and normalized in Finland, I wondered what type of food they serve on the reindeer farm. The first excursion listed on the site is one where they prepare food for you fireside, and indeed reindeer is on the menu in multiple iterations. So I am wondering, how can one know that reindeer are being treated 100% ethically within an operation where reindeer are also being slaughtered for consumption? Some people are clearly able to keep things separate in their mind. Like, this is a cute, delightful reindeer that I'm petting or that's going to be pulling my sleigh, and this is a piece of meat that I'm going to eat. And that is what we call cognitive dissonance. Appreciating and feeling affection toward an animal while simultaneously paying for the animal to suffer for your own enjoyment. Most people that consume animal products experience some form of cognitive dissonance. I definitely used to experience it. Usually it's between species, like loving a dog but eating a pig, things like that. With Unesquivari, it kind of reminds me of the Jeffree Star yak ranch that I made a video about, in which he claims he has some yaks that are his pets and that he loves on and names, and then there's other yaks in a different part of the farm that he slaughters and sells for meat. What's the difference between them? Nothing really, other than that he's decided that these ones are his friends and these ones are food. Or income, really. I will say this may come down to cultural differences, you know, that it's culturally accepted by Finnish people and by the indigenous people to utilize a reindeer in multiple different ways. They may not see anything ethically or morally wrong with that. Which brings me to the question, in terms of ethical treatment, how are we defining that? It's not a clearly defined black and white concept. Ethical to one person might be unethical to another, which is why it's important to have animal welfare standards in place. I did find this article from January 9th of this year on what seems to be a tourism website for Lapland about the launch of an animal welfare certification for sled dogs and reindeer. Finland is taking leading action towards responsible tourism by developing animal welfare criteria included in the Green Activities Certificate for sled dogs and reindeer. The criteria sets clear guidelines and structure of the animal welfare for the companies to follow and commit to, which are verified by an external party. This enables tourism companies offering sled rides to take better account of animal welfare and makes the good work of companies visible to tourists as well. I was really happy to see this. It's undoubtedly a step in the right direction for animal welfare. On the Unesquivari website, I don't see anything about them being certified, but maybe the process takes a while, maybe it's expensive, it seems like it's relatively new, so maybe it'll take a few years for companies to start being certified, but hopefully this is something that operations will begin to take part in and that tourists will be discerning about. Because without a certification in place, in my opinion, all the animals are vulnerable to exploitation and mistreatment. Now let's discuss, why do humans love animal tourism so much? From SeaWorld to circuses to riding on animals' backs, it's clear that humans love experiences that involve animals. It's my opinion that most people genuinely love animals. They're mysterious and majestic, and people like being in close proximity to them. For most of us, I think it gives us some type of pleasure, a sense of calm and peace. Where the disconnect happens, I believe, is that people are misled by most forms of animal tourism. There's a lot of humane washing that goes on. This topic could be its own separate video. People usually want to believe the best, especially when it means they get to do something magical, like taking a sleigh ride. People want to have these experiences and they'll justify it however they need to, maybe using cognitive dissonance like I discussed before, especially when it involves something that's part lore and part true, something like Christmas and sleigh rides. Please make sure there are no kids around for this part. Please, if there are kids around, turn this off and watch it later. Santa might not be real, but you can actually go to a place that feels like the North Pole and take the same form of transportation Santa does. There's huge appeal to it, and I understand that. And it might not be pleasant to examine what's going on behind that magical curtain, but that's what I'm here to do. Are culture and history an excuse? Something having a cultural historical precedent often gets used as an excuse to justify things that may not be moral or humane.
People have been doing this for hundreds or thousands of years. It's natural and normal and therefore morally justified.
A lot of people say this to vegans in regard to consuming animal products. Well, this is what our ancestors did, Paleolithic era, etc., etc. But as we know, there are things that were considered moral and normal throughout history that are now decisively considered immoral and in some cases illegal. It could be said of reindeer husbandry, there's a rich cultural history, people really care about the reindeer, they've been doing this for centuries. Something having a cultural history gives it this automatic facade of humaneness, and also almost gives this innate protection. Like, how dare you question the rituals and practices of my ancestors? So it's a tricky topic to navigate. For me, I would ask, when it comes to cultural traditions, is there a more ethical way to honor those traditions in a way where we're not causing a living, feeling being to suffer? It comes down to the whole, if you know better, do better. And also, is this necessary at the current moment the way it may have been necessary for your ancestors? With reindeer husbandry, I believe throughout history that it was necessary, especially for the indigenous people. But in this modern world that we live in, I assume most people no longer need reindeer for food, for transportation, for clothing. I'm sure some people still do. And I'm not talking about that, I'm more talking about the commodification of reindeer, specifically as it relates to tourism. Another thing is, it really doesn't make sense to compare modern life to the way things were hundreds or thousands of years ago, because things have changed dramatically, specifically technology, as illustrated in the quote I read earlier from reindeerherding.org. So even this website, which is a pro-reindeer herding website, acknowledges that the methodologies have changed and that reindeer herding is not as humane or as intimate as it once was. There's also this blog post that claims reindeer are killed in modern-day slaughterhouses just like cows or many other food animals would be. This study I found in a Danish veterinary journal explores the stress of reindeer being transported to slaughter, as well as the stress of being rounded up in general. Heartbreakingly, this study is really only focused on the psychological and physical harm caused to reindeer insofar as it relates to the quality of the meat. There's also the humane washing of marketing the byproducts as local, just like with local humanely raised meat anywhere else, which frames it in a feel-good way for tourists, even though it's still the product of animal slaughter at the end of the day. To reiterate, I don't think an activity having a cultural or historical precedent excuses or protects it from moral probing in our modern day world. Let's talk about the concept of animals as gifts. Taking into consideration everything I just discussed, I don't think it's right to gift reindeer as prizes at the FIS World Cup. For one, it positions the animals as gifts to be given, therefore commodities. Obviously, in the case of these skiers, they're not expected to take care of the reindeer, but in multiple instances, it's referred to as Mikaela owning the reindeer. Many people disagree with the concept of owning animals as if they're our property, which I talked about in the Taylor Swift Cats video. It's not like this farm is a reindeer sanctuary. Many farm animal sanctuaries allow you to sponsor a specific animal at the farm, which gives you a series of benefits, like these ones from the Catskill Animal Sanctuary. In my opinion, this is a great symbolic gift to get someone, maybe for Christmas, great gift idea. But again, it doesn't mean that you own that animal. Since reindeer are such a big part of the economy of Lapland, it seems like the whole gifting the winner of Levi a reindeer tradition may have been ideated as a synergistic way to promote local tourism. In fact, on the Uuniskivari website, they note that they are located 7 kilometers, so about 4 miles from Levi, which makes it a very short excursion for tourists and a very obvious cross-promotion opportunity. Add in the timing of the event being at the beginning of the holiday season, that to me seems like the most likely explanation. Which makes Mikaela, or any other winner of the event, somewhat of a prop or unwitting spokesperson for Finnish tourism. In conclusion, Given the historic and cultural significance of reindeer in the Finnish Lapland, as well as the fact that they are such a big part of the local economy, it's no surprise that someone would come up with the concept of gifting a reindeer to the winner of a highly publicized local skiing event. And there's no inherent problem with promoting local tourism, but when that tourism involves highly sentient and sensitive wild animals being used to make money in various ways, whether that's making them pull people on a sleigh, or slaughtering them to sell for meat, or to sell their skin, it doesn't feel like an authentic celebration. And it also promotes the, I believe, harmful practice of giving animals as gifts, and that is why I don't agree with this tradition, with no disrespect to the Finnish people and their heritage. I truly believe we can celebrate, honor old traditions, and create new ones in ways that don't cause animals to suffer. I so appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Give it a thumbs up if you found it thought-provoking or interesting. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of it. Subscribe for more of my videos, hit the bell to be notified when I upload, and I'll see you again soon. Bye! I definitely felt this was an appropriate and timely video. I don't mean to be all bah humbug or Scrooge McDuck. Is that his name? Or is that like one of the DuckTales? Scrooge McDuck.